Hunger is hard to recognize in America. We know it in other places, like Asia and Africa. But these children, all of them, are Americans, and all of them are hungry. Hunger is easy to recognize when it looks like this. This baby is dying of starvation. He was an American. Now he is dead.
Here for CBS Reports is Charles Kuralt.
Food is the most basic of all human needs. Man can manage to live without shelter, without clothing, even without love. Poverty, unpleasant as it is bearable. But man can't remain alive without food. America is the richest country in the world, in fact, the richest country in history. We spend a colossal amount of money, $1.5 billion a year, to feed the rest of the world. But this spring, a private agency, the Citizens Board of Inquiry, consisting of distinguished leaders in many fields, released an exhaustive report claiming that serious hunger exists many places in the United States. Out of a total population of 200 million, the report states, 30 million Americans are impoverished, with family income below $3,000 a year. 5 million of these people are helped by 2 existing federal food programs. Now, a new figure must be added. Of the 30 million who are impoverished, 10 million Americans, whether or not they are reached by federal aid, are hungry. That's just the arithmetic. Unfortunately, the problem is all too human. CBS News has spent the last 10 months investigating hunger in America. We selected 4 areas of the country to examine closely. Tonight, we present our results.
San Antonio, Texas is celebrating its 250th birthday with an international exposition, Hemisphere 68. 32 foreign countries with pavilions, restaurants, amusements, and exhibits are helping San Antonio congratulate itself on its growth and progress. There's a sky ride, a monorail, and of course the usual 600-foot tower with the revolving restaurant on top. Texas Governor John Connolly says Hemisphere has turned the downtown area from slum to jewel box. But the jewels don't glitter very brightly on the other side of town, where 400,000 Mexican Americans live, half the city's population. Most of them are crowded into what city officials refer to as poverty tracts. Mexican Americans face a language barrier, and like most poor people, they suffer from lack of skills and unemployment. A hard time earning means a hard time eating. A quarter of San Antonio's Mexican Americans, 100,000 people, are hungry all the time. CBS News correspondent David Culhane found out how hungry from a woman with 6 children and an unemployed husband.
Do you have any food in the house now?
No, sir, I haven't got anything.
What do you tell your children when they come home and there is no food?
That we haven't got anything to eat, and we just have to lay down like that until the next day, see if we can find something to eat.
And that's it?
Yes, sir. We just come and drink some water and go to bed.
Father Ralph Ruiz, a Catholic priest, lives and works with the poorest of San Antonio's Mexican Americans. He is a missionary among his own people. Father Ruiz gives out food as often as he does communion. Prayer, Father Ruiz knows, is not what a man wants when his stomach is empty.
Many people expect to see hunger in the faces of children or of other people. Hunger is felt, and when you begin to see hunger in the faces of people, it is because they no longer feel that hunger. I've asked them, are you hungry? How are you doing? No, Father, we're doing fine. What did you have to eat? I asked them. We had beans and tortillas. When? This morning? And this afternoon, we had beans and tortillas. And what are you going to eat tonight? Beans and tortillas. I am a Mexican American myself, and I love beans and tortillas and chili. But I also love meat, milk, cheese. And if anybody thinks that the poor eat tortillas and beans, and that alone because they love it, they are naive. Many times children get pennies, nickels, dimes, and the first thing they do is run to the store and buy junk like candies, potato chips, things like that. And we criticize them. Look at those kids running to the store and buying that junk. But these little fellas instinctively go and buy these sweets and so on because it will do away with their hunger. It will mitigate their hunger.
Señora, mire, ¿cómo está? Estamos solamente...
For these people, my people, education is a luxury.
Dame la mano, pues, aténdale.
The mind comes in second place
¿Cómo te llamas?
when the stomach is empty.
¿Y tú?
Jerry.
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 ¿Vas a la escuela, Jerry?
Sí.
¿Hablas inglés?
Poquito.
Okay. What school do you go to?
Southside.
Southside. How far is school from here?
8
what?
8 miles.
Is it a high school or junior high school?
Junior high.
Junior high. When you go to school there, do you take lunch with you?
No, sir.
And what do you eat at noon then?
Nothing.
Do they have a cafeteria there?
Yes, sir.
Do they know that you eat nothing at noon?
I guess not.
How much does lunch cost over there?
35.
Do you have 35 cents to buy your food with?
No, sir.
In the mornings when you go to school, do you always have breakfast here at home?
Yes, sir.
What do you have for breakfast here at home?
Beans.
Beans. What time do you quit school every day?
3:30.
Until 3:30. So from the morning till 3:30 you have nothing else to eat, huh?
No, sir.
Besides beans.
Yes.
How are you able to work in school and to study if you have nothing to eat at noon?
I don't know.
They don't know what it is to have meat at least once a week. They don't know what it is to have milk at least once a day for their children. They don't know what it is to have a dessert. They've never had a dessert. All these things to them are like a star, able to be seen, unable to be attained.
You're receiving 2 pounds of peanut butter one time, 6 pounds of raisins, 6 boxes of milk.
San Antonio's answer to hunger for the last 14 years has been surplus commodities.
You will receive 20
Surplus commodities are foods that farmers cannot sell and nobody else wants. The U.S. Department of Agriculture buys surplus crops from farmers and gets rid of them by giving them to the poor. For farmers and the government, commodities are a convenience. For the poor, they are simply an inadequate dole.
You'll receive
The program consists largely of dumping excesses rather than providing essentials. In April, for instance, the Department of Agriculture distributed 1,400,000 pounds of peanut butter.
2 pounds of peanut butter, 4 pounds
The program is not changed since it was conceived of in the 1930s. Commodities are still given to 3.5 million Americans in 1,272 counties. Commodities are most notable for the foods they do not include. There are no green vegetables, no eggs, no fresh meat, fresh milk, or fruit. No one claims that surplus commodities are anything but a diet supplement. But for all too many of those who receive them, commodities are the entire diet. The poor are alive because they eat. They are malnourished because of what they eat. Fat people can be hungry people.
I understand that you've been ill. Can you tell me about it?
Well, it started when I was expecting my baby. About almost a year, I got sick. And the doctor said that I had to stay in bed for quite a while, which I did. And, well, I was supposed to be in so many ways in a diet, but I couldn't afford them on account that, well, my husband is not making enough money to support a family, which is not in the family. And
what did he say that you should eat?
well, he recommends that I had to eat. Either I eat these things, or if I keep on gaining, the truth is, if I keep on gaining and eating starch things, I won't last long.
Hunger is never so devastating as in a child, never so horrifying as in what it may drive a child to do. Social worker Mary Garcia sees many such children.
Miss Garcia, why is this girl being detained?
She was picked up for soliciting for prostitution.
Well, how old is she?
She's 11.
11. Is this an unusual case?
Well, yes, unusual because of her age, but I do have quite a number of girls that are involved in it.
Why would a girl of this age go into prostitution?
Well, in talking to them, the reasons they give me is that they do it so they can get the money to buy food, because they don't have any at home.
San Antonio has 4 county commissioners, and their opinions vary. A.J. Plow is the senior commissioner. He has served 5 successive terms for the last 18 years. David Culhane asked Commissioner Plow about the children in San Antonio who are not getting enough food.
Well, why are they not getting enough food? Because the father won't work. And I mean won't work. If they won't work, do you expect the taxpayer to raise all the kids because the daddies won't work? First, let's do something with the daddies, and then, yes, take care of the kids.
I wonder whether these children who are not getting a proper diet are going to be able to learn properly in school.
Well, what do you mean learn properly in school? Do you really need school other than, say, an 8th grade education? That's where another thing people keep talking about, this education, college education. It's not necessary.
And what do you do about the children who are not getting enough to eat?
Well, I don't know about that, because that's really the problem of the father. Now, what to do about the man, I don't know. But you'll always have that condition, because if you don't have that condition, then you'll never have Indians and chiefs. And you've got to have Indians and chiefs.
Not sure I understand what you mean. You mean that you'll always have hunger?
Not necessarily. Yes, you'll always have it, because some men just ain't worth a dime. And you'll always have hunger, yes.
San Antonio has one charity hospital, the Robert B. Greene. David Culhane talked with Mrs. Vera Burke, who is Director of Social Services at this hospital.
Mrs. Burke, how many of these people would you say are malnourished?
Well, I would say in one way or another, all of them are malnourished. And we see in this clinic 300 patients every day during the week, and about 200 every single day of the week in the emergency room. Many of our patients arrive here without having had breakfast. All of them, we know, have inadequate food budgets and inadequate diets. And one of the problems in treating patients with inadequate diets is that you have a prolonged period of recovery due to inadequate food intake and inadequate protein. Specifically, these patients eat a high starchy diet, which is not conducive to good, speedy recovery.
Perhaps because of the malnutrition and their hard lives, many of them look 10, even 20 years older than they really are. Many of these patients will be told that they must have certain foods. None of them will be able to buy even the basic diet that the doctors tell them to have. As a social worker, the first impact that the hospital in San Antonio made on me was one of great shock. Because in the 10 years that I worked at Bellevue Hospital in New York, I never saw patients with as much malnutrition as I encountered here. Most particularly, this occurs in the pediatric service.
Dr. Falcone, Dr. Falcone.
3 wards at the Robert B. Greene Hospital are constantly filled with babies admitted because of malnutrition and diarrhea.
Dr. Falcone, Dr. Falcone. Dr. Wilson, Dr. Richard Wilson.
In a small child who is poorly nourished to begin with, diarrhea can be fatal. These babies are from 6 months to more than a year old.
Think, if you will, of a baby over a year old weighing less than 5 pounds. They come here weighing less than they did when they were born. But the awful fact is that after these months of treatment, we send these babies back home where there is no milk, and the nutrition is so poor that they return to the hospital again and again and again.
Because of malnutrition, the wards for premature babies are also constantly filled. Malnutrition, a problem for the mother, can become a tragedy for her baby.
There's a distinct correlation between the food that a mother receives during pregnancy and the kind of a delivery she's going to have. With inadequate nutrition, there's also a strong risk that the baby will be premature or will be of premature weight, less than 5 pounds, even if born at full term.
Dr. Webster, Dr. Elliott Webster.
Many of these babies, born of malnourished mothers, weigh as little as 1.5 pounds. They must be fed intravenously, and they require constant medical attention. Some have to remain in isolettes for more than 8 months, still weighing less than a baby should at birth.
Their lives are constantly in jeopardy. They have a very hard time making it to live, but with the special care that they get, many do manage to survive.
Dr. Allen, Dr. Guyana.
Some of the babies do not survive. Loudoun County, Virginia is anything but a poverty pocket. It is headquarters for the so-called horsey set. The county contains hunt clubs, private schools, and aristocratic race meets that mingle the pedigrees of the horses with those of their owners. The trappings of wealth are everywhere. Loudoun County is only 25 miles outside Washington, D.C. It is the home of distinguished legislators like Senator Everett Dirksen, celebrities like Arthur Godfrey. Society here is studded with American nobility, names like DuPont, Mellon, and Whitney. Hunger is the last thing an outsider would expect to find. Indeed, it might be the last thing he would find. Yet hidden away in Loudoun County are thousands of shacks where tenant farmers lead a marginal existence. Loudoun County, like 1/3 of the counties in America, has no federal food program. Dr. Stephen Granger, the Loudoun County medical officer, knows and treats many of the tenant families. Dr. Granger told us the households have too many members and too little food.
In Loudoun County, the families of the tenant farmers tend to be large, and the children get neither the right food nor enough food. Their diet is heavy on starch, mainly potatoes, and very light on protein. The physical effects of this poor diet are striking. The children have kind of a hollow, lifeless look, stringy hair, a pasty complexion, a dead look about their eyes. There is a hopeless feeling that springs almost physically from these children. But bad diet affects brain tissue as well, a child's ability to think and to learn. Perhaps the worst damage is done during infancy, when the child is completely dependent and helpless. The brain damage is not reversible. It can't be changed. Not by Christmas baskets, not by hot lunches when he starts school, or anything else, 1 year from now or 5 years from now.
Dr. Granger's staff of public health nurses has to spend a good deal of time figuring out ways for these families to eat a little bit better, how to get the right kind of food, and how to make the best use of it.
See, they are all up, aren't they? Has she had her lunch?
Not yet.
Mm-hmm. What does she eat for lunch?
She eats from the table.
What you gonna have for her lunch today?
I don't know.
You don't know what's being prepared yet. Do you have any baby food in the house?
Not yet.
Mm-hmm. And this one is 2 weeks old.
Mm-hmm.
And you haven't started feeding her cereal yet?
Uh-uh.
Well, I would start that. And this child eats all together from the table.
Mm-hmm.
What did he eat for his breakfast this morning?
She eats gravy.
She ate gravy for breakfast. Anything else besides gravy? Mm-hmm.
There is an additional problem in Loudoun County, the pride of the people. Even if surplus food were available, and it's not, most of them would probably reject it. David Culhane talked to a tenant farm worker and his wife.
You've got to admit to the fact that you're poor, and you can't be looked down on yourself because you're poor. You've got to be proud of it. We're poor and we're proud of it. Some people are rich and they're proud of it. It's just a way of life.
Do you think you need help?
No, I don't need no help. God only helps those that help themselves. Now, as long as a man has got 2 hands, 2 feet, and a brain, there's no limit.
Granted that you try, but really now, doesn't it sometimes happen that you can't afford something that you know they should have?
Well, usually when it comes right down to that, we usually get what we need for the kids first. Then if we have to go without juice or we have to go without some little extra, we have to buy less potatoes for ourselves or less of something for ourselves, we'll do that in order to get for the kids.
What would you say about people who say they want help?
I would consider them kind of people, to put it in plain words, leechers. Because if they can't help themselves, they've got no business being married, got no business having children. I want to take care of my family myself. They didn't marry me. I married my wife. And I have 2 children, and it's up to me to take care of them, not receive handouts. That's a bum. If I want to be a bum, I'll go in Washington. There's plenty of them.
Dr. Granger also sees the slow but certain human erosion caused by the kind of life the tenant families lead, the kind of food they eat.
One of our patients, a woman with dignity and perseverance, is only 39 years old. She looks to be much older than that. This is not rare among our families. It can be caused by a number of medical problems, but malnutrition certainly plays a big part. There are about 7,000 households in the area that have severe nutrition problems. They rarely, if ever, eat a complete meal. Their lives are borderline in every sense. These people with no past to be proud of and no hope for the future seek immediate forms of enjoyment.
Real big.
This is why we frequently see a late model television set in the living room of a family that's not tasted meat for 6 weeks.
Okay, good.
This is why we frequently see a late model baby in the crib. This is why we often see empty pint bottles in the yard. All these things are signs of the short term. With no real prospects in life, they turn to the few pleasures they can find. Often the only creative thing a woman can do in these circumstances is to have a baby, and then to have another one, and so they do. The children grow into the image of their parents, and like their parents, they will be old before they should be. Surrounded by prosperity, these people share in none of it. The misery in their lives is a constant. The sameness stretches from one day to the next, 1 year to the next, 1 generation to the next.
The deserts of Arizona and New Mexico are nice places to visit, but the Navajo Indians have to live there. Living in a desert, just staying alive, is very hard for the 125,000 members of the largest tribe in the United States. The West was theirs once. They were nomads, and their home was vast. Now they have an arid reservation. Dr. Jean Van Duzen of Tuba City, Arizona, has practiced among the Navajo Indians for the past 14 years. She continually faces the medical problems caused by lack of food.
Right now, they look like they're kind of low on food. When they run out of food, what kind of foods do they eat?
Flour and lard and coffee.
In other words, fry bread and coffee.
That's right.
The children too?
Let's see.
Everybody eats the same.
The people that I see every day look like they are fed mostly on starches. The older people tend to be rather fat and dumpy. The children are just plain undernourished. They're shorter than they should be. They're thinner than they should be. They're less resistant to infections.
Half the Navajos make less than $1,500 a year. There is not enough water to farm here, so they try to be shepherds. But it takes 10 of their dry acres to produce enough food for 1 sheep. And when sheep are hungry, so are their owners. Surplus commodities are given to the Navajos every month by the Department of Agriculture. The tribe has trucks that deliver the commodities to trading posts, but the Navajos often have to walk as far as 25 miles to pick them up.
Surplus commodities are not meant to act as the entire diet for the Navajo or for anybody else. It's only 40% of the caloric needs of the people. It does not make any allowance for protein needs, for vitamin needs, for mineral needs. It does have mostly starch. It's what I would call a white diet. And this is actually a very, very poor diet. I've been out in the hogans and I've seen what the women have to make. It's usually lard, flour, sugar, salt, some tea, coffee, maybe a few potatoes. In fact, I very seldom have seen vegetables in the hogan of any kind. They talk about mutton stew, but in fact, they do butchering only every other week, and then they share it to the whole camp. So that no matter how you figure it, they couldn't possibly get meat more than once every 2 weeks. The main diet is starches with fry bread or sometimes store bread, potatoes, very little else.
The Public Health Service Hospital for the Navajo Reservation is in Tuba City, Arizona. Dr. Van Dusen showed David Culhane some of the babies brought to this hospital because of malnutrition bordering on starvation.
Let me show you one of the real kwashiorkors.
This child is representative of the sort of thing you find here?
He still shows some of the signs of kwashiorkor.
What is, you keep using that word, kwashiorkor. What exactly is that?
Kwashiorkor is the most severe form of protein-calorie malnutrition. This is a disease that was seen first in South America and Africa. It's not supposed to exist in the United States, but it does.
Mm-hmm. How much of it do you get here?
I've seen about 4 cases a year, and right now I've got 4 cases on the ward. I've seen several other cases, so there's lots of it.
How about this child now? What's this child's condition at this point?
He's much improved. When he first came in, the skin was much looser and hung in folds. It still is not normal. You can't feel a good muscle mass. The thighs show a lot of flabbiness. The child's face shows a lot of things to us. The lip corners of the lips, and then we look at the gums. Very frequently we can see scurvy. I can tell about the hair. This is not normal hair for a Navajo child. It's much too thin, it's red.
What would the normal condition be?
Oh, Navajo babies have beautiful black, silky hair and lots of it. This is not normal.
What did this child look like when he came into the hospital?
When they arrive, they're usually so weak that they can't suck, they can't lie, they really don't even cry. Some of them are sick enough so that you think they're going to die in a day or 2. But he's much better. Can you stand up? No. No, not real. No? No.
Is it possible that this child will ever really catch up?
It depends whether or not he goes back to a home with a normal diet or not. It also depends upon how long the bad diet was before and how severe. Most of them recover, but there's some question that they may be always shortened, and they may have permanent damage to the brain and inability to learn how to read and write and learn in the usual schooling situation. The disease that I'm worried about the most, though, is the marasmus, which is in the very young baby.
What is marasmus?
Marasmus is total calorie and protein malnutrition. This is where a child gets nothing, practically nothing but water. And very quickly they get into great trouble and frequently die. When you make the diagnosis of marasmus, you know 1/3 of them is going to die. That's 1/3. Marasmic children usually lose the fat pad in their cheeks, so they don't have strength enough to suck even if they want to. The problem is that many times they don't want to. The mothers will tell me that the baby doesn't cry, and they don't. They just lay there. This baby had marasmus, mainly because the mother's milk dried up, and she didn't have any other way to feed it. And if you don't have the money, why, you don't buy milk. And after a few weeks or months of living on nothing, why, yes, he starves. The baby came in. It had lost all the fat that it was born with. And the skin hangs particularly on the legs and doubles over on the knees. The face is wrinkled and looks like a very, very old person without any teeth. We decide how they're getting well just by how young they look. When they look 60 years old rather than 100 years old, they're getting better. We lost a little girl last week with marasmus. When I talked to the mother afterwards, she said she had lost 8 other children, all of them under a year of age when they died. She wanted this little girl. Little girls are prized in the Navajo culture. She's up in Tuba City Cemetery now. It's a little mound. The little short mounds are for the little short caskets, and the larger ones are for the older people. I think more of them are little than they are big. I don't go there anymore. There's too many people up there that I know.
It has never been easy to be a Negro in Alabama. Times have often been bad, and they've never been good. But there's always been cotton to plant, to chop, to pick, and to plow. Cotton has been a misery, but at least it's been a meal ticket. Now, it's not even that. The machines have taken over, and a field that once needed 100 Negroes today barely supports 3. 10 years ago, machines harvested only 2% of Alabama's cotton. This year, they will harvest more than 80%. The Negroes must look elsewhere for jobs, and the jobs are not in Alabama. Some go north. Many others remain, often because they are so poor, so tired, and so hungry that they can't even get up and go. In the long history of black belt deprivation, there have never been times as bad as these. Last spring, the Field Foundation sent 6 prominent doctors to investigate hunger in Mississippi. One of these was Dr. Raymond Wheeler, who has lived and practiced in the South all his life. We asked Dr. Wheeler to visit Hale County, Alabama.
Slow starvation has become part of the Southern way of life. The apathy and the violence, the ironic but brutal contrast that pass for Southern traditions are impossible to believe until you have seen them.
You have how many children to feed?
10.
10 children.
Yes.
Are there times when you don't have enough food at the house to go around?
Yes, lots of times.
There are times
Just
when
have to make out what I have, give each one of them a little what I have.
What did you have for dinner today?
I didn't have any dinner.
You're going to have a baby before long.
Yes.
What kind of food do you eat?
Rice, chicken sometimes.
What else do you eat?
That's all. Water.
Mrs. Anders, what does your husband do for a living?
He gets job in hayfields.
In hayfields?
Yes.
How much does he make when he's working?
From $3 to $4 a day.
$3 to $4 a day?
Yes.
And he hasn't worked now in 3 or 4 weeks?
Yes.
Do you get food stamps?
No, because I'm not able to get them.
Why?
I ain't got them this month. They cost $70 and I don't have it.
Have you asked for any help from anyone in raising the money to buy those stamps?
No, there ain't no need.
Why?
They ain't gonna give it to you.
Have you been down to the welfare department and talked to them, or has your husband?
No, so the latest time I went to the welfare, the lady told me, said that if you have a living husband, that they couldn't give you no help.
Even if he's not working?
Yes.
3 weeks after talking to Dr. Wheeler, Mrs. Zanders gave birth to a severely malnourished baby. 2 days later, the baby died. Alabama's solution to hunger in 15 counties is the federal food stamp program. The U.S. Department of Agriculture sponsors the program, but it is administered locally by the states and counties. Each county has a central office where the stamps are sold. Food stamps are a means of giving a family a bonus. For a cash payment, $25 for instance, A family receives food stamps worth much more money, perhaps $70 or $80. The stamps, in other words, are worth much more than the cash paid for them.
It has a $2 stamp in it that looks like this. Your green book is worth $3. It has a 50-cent stamp in it for small items. Your white book is worth $2.
The cost of stamps varies from family to family. Coupons worth $80, for instance, may cost one family $40 and another only $15. This cost is set by local officials. Many factors affect the cost, such as the size of the family, income, and how much the family usually spends each month for food.
You may detach the stamps if you are in front of the cashier, but do not detach a stamp and send it to the grocery store with this.
Food stamps can be used at local grocery stores and supermarkets. They allow a family to purchase whatever it wants in the way of food. If the family uses them wisely, stamps can provide a more balanced diet than surplus commodities. But a family may not buy food stamps a day at a time or a week at a time. They must buy a month's supply or a half-month supply all at once. For many Alabamans, it is difficult to accumulate any sum of money, even as little as $5 or $10 on a given day. What little money they do get must go immediately to pay an urgent debt or to feed an urgently hungry mouth.
78, 80. Thank you. $20.
Let's take your sweater off. Okay?
Dr. Wheeler examined the children of a family that can't afford food stamps. Their father had not worked in 5 weeks.
Way up high, like that. Come on. We've got it. Good girl.
When children don't get enough to eat, their initial response to the world is mistrust.
Louise.
The children here get up hungry, go to bed hungry, and never know anything else in between.
Kind of a bad cold.
They are hungry all the time. They can't even feel the depth of their own hunger. Even a superficial examination of these children reveals the unmistakable effects that their skimpy, monotonous meals must inevitably produce. In the first year of their lives, these children fall behind. In each subsequent year, they fall further behind, and they never catch up. Malnutrition impairs their performance for life.
Hi, Charles. How old are you?
14.
You go to school?
Yes.
Do you get breakfast at home before you go?
Yes. Some have peas.
You have peas?
Yeah.
Well, when you get to school, what do you have to eat there?
Yes.
You don't have anything to eat when you're at school?
Yes.
Is there any place at school where you can buy something to eat or get something to eat? Do they cook a meal for you there?
Yes.
Well, why don't you have some?
I don't have money to buy it.
You don't have the money to buy it?
Yeah.
How much does it cost?
25 cents.
It costs 25 cents to have something to eat at school.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do while the other children are eating?
Let's sit there.
Where do you sit?
Let's sit where the children be sitting.
How do you feel toward the other children who are eating when you don't have anything?
Be ashamed.
Are you ashamed?
Yeah, be hungry.
Why are you ashamed?
I don't have no money.
Dr. Wheeler talked to a woman whose family has been sharecroppers ever since they stopped being slaves. The woman and her husband and 14 children and grandchildren still live on the farm, but it does not support them anymore.
Miss Carlisle, why don't you raise your own food?
Well, I raise this what I can. We raise that okra. We raise all stuff like that and garlic. When we can, but not no corn. That's all so we can grow in the food line.
Why no corn?
But we don't have no corn acres.
What do you mean?
the landlord said he sold the corn acres to the governor, and we can have the corn.
Well, then who plants the corn on it?
Don't nobody plant no. Just the land for the corn lays out into nothing.
The land's there,
That's right.
but
When nothing-
nobody plants it.
That's right. Can't plant it. When you sell it to the government, and whoever sell it gets a check off. You can't raise nothing on it. Just have to stay there. So we've been raising corn. Having corn to raise whole chickens, turkeys, so. But I can't raise them because I don't have food to feed them. Can't raise corn and I can't buy it.
Now that you can buy food stamps, aren't you able to get more food for your family?
I can't buy them every 2 weeks because I don't have the money. I don't have the $33 every 2 weeks. I don't have nowhere to get it from. My husband don't make but $3.50 a day for the city. And that he don't make over $22 or $23 a week. Now, I couldn't get the food stamp. They set your price what they want you to pay. If you ain't got that price, why you don't get no food stamps? I just have to go along with it because I can't do no better. None of the white people, they don't care how you live. Work for them is all right. But the living problem, they don't care too much for that.
Why is that?
They don't treat us like they used to treat us. They did used to treat us a lot better than they do. But they don't do that no more. And I imagine, I feel like it because the children go to school together and do a little voting, something they never have did. I never known them to do it. And the younger group can speak a little more plainer, a little more for themselves than we used to do. And that's why the average of the young people is leaving home, going north, why they've been all their life. Some have never been nowhere in their life, but they're leaving Alabama going north. Because they're getting better jobs and they're getting better treatment. The younger people. Because see, we older people, we still here in it. We ain't like the young ones. And that's the reason I figure they don't care where we go or stay here.
Why do you think they don't care?
I know they don't care. I don't have to think they don't care. I know they don't care.
The families we have visited tonight are sadly more typical than unique. Hunger can be found many places in the United States, too many places. 10 million Americans don't know where their next meal is coming from. Sometimes it doesn't come at all. More than 1,000 counties in need of food programs have no program whatsoever. States and counties often keep out federal food programs. Surplus commodities means less food purchased in local stores, and states and counties must share in the cost of food stamps. There is also the failure of these programs themselves. Surplus commodities are free, but do not contain the right foods. Food stamps are not free, and too often the people who need them most can't afford them. The Department of Agriculture has emergency power to bring food to hungry people in any county in the United States. So far, it has been reluctant to exercise this power. In the last 2 years, the Department of Agriculture has quietly turned back to the Treasury $408 million that could have been used to feed hungry Americans. CBS News has learned that this year, the department plans to turn back to the Treasury another $227 million, more money than ever before. According to the Department of Agriculture, the existing food programs are run as efficiently as possible without this money. Meantime, American farmers in recent weeks have slaughtered and buried 14,000 hogs because, they say, there's no market for them. The Department of Agriculture protects farmers, not consumers, especially not destitute consumers. The federal food program might be better administered by the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, or by a special commission whose only concern would be to see that hungry Americans are fed. We're talking about 10 million Americans. In this country, the most basic human need must become a human right. This is Charles Kuralt for CBS Reports.
You'll receive 2 pounds of peanut butter, 4 pounds of raisins, 4 boxes of milk, 6 pounds of lard, 8 pounds of rice, 8 pounds of beans, 20 pounds of cornmeal, 20 pounds of flour, 6 pounds of oats, 4 pounds of butter, and 5 pounds of cheese. You'll receive 2 pounds of peanut butter, 4 pounds of raisins, 4 boxes of milk, 6 pounds of lard, 8 pounds of rice, 8 pounds of beans, 20 pounds of cornmeal, 20 pounds of flour, 6 pounds of oats, 4 cans of meat, and 5 pounds of cheese. Mr. Spring?